in the wake of a draft, sometimes you go back and you reevaluate afterwards and you go, okay, that does make sense when you hear the reasoning as to why. And, we played a lot of sound on Friday's show from Brad Holmes. And if you missed Friday's show, essentially said Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the top handful of favorite players we had. When I hear that, you go, okay, favorite players mean and handful. Okay, so 5, 6 in that neighborhood. They evaluated Jahmyr Gibbs as one of the top 5 players in the draft. And then he said same thing about Jack Campbell. He said some of the guys we wanted were gone. So if you had, if you have 5 players, 6 players at the top of the board, Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell were both there. And some of them were gone. So assuming the players ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs and ahead of Jack Campbell, wherever they had him rated, were gone, then you see why they did what they did. The wild thing, of course, is the reshuffling and say if you took Brian Branch at 12, Sam Laporta at 18, and Jahmyr Gibbs at 48, which was their original first, second round pick, and Jack Campbell at 55, it would fall more in line with what I call the pre-draft group think. The group think that takes place where everybody's mock drafts look similar. They don't look exactly the same, but they're similar. And they're a product of being in a bit of a pre-draft echo chamber. And yet, I think I suspect, and ask yourself this question, if you had every team's big board, how different would they look from the big boards that we see publicly? And I think you would see a wide variety. And my hunch on this is we'd come to realize that there's so many differing opinions in the league and outside the league that the idea that there's one giant draft board that is similar for everybody, I think is a false premise to start with. Now, I also need to be fair. 10-2, Karsch and Anderson, we bathe in this stuff pre-draft. We do. And we talk about it because it's fascinating. It's literally like building your Christmas wish list when you're a kid. And then draft night is Christmas Day. And it's fun. And it shapes a lot of opinions. And what it all comes down, and there's stuff they did where I'm like, I don't understand that. And, of course, we get up on the phone lines and grade the draft. But we're not going to do that today. I mean, I guess if you want to give us your grade, you can. I just tend to look at it and say, do I trust the guy in charge, and does what he did make sense to me? And I can see the vision here. I could see this draft producing 4 immediate impact guys. And that's pretty good. Ask yourself this question. Can you see Jahmyr Gibbs playing and making a difference this year? Yep. Can you see Jack Campbell playing and making a difference this year, given their linebacking core? Yep. Can you see Sam Laporta playing and make a difference this year? Yep. And can you see Brian Branch playing and making a difference this year? Yes. Now, maybe you disagree with one of those, and I'm willing to debate it. But I don't think that's even close to a stretch, given the positions they play and their pre-draft evaluations. Now, you can hate where they were drafted, but think about that next year when we're going into the draft. Think about that every year. 4 immediate impact guys. Whew. Now, everything doesn't work out the way you plan. Everything doesn't work out the way you plan. But as it stands right here, right now, that's why I really like what they did. And we'll get into the stuff we didn't like what they did. That's why I really like what they did. Hope you had a great weekend. 248-539-9797. Again, Gator off today. Kang's behind the glass. Kang, how was your weekend?
Really good because of the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, even whether you like the draft or not, I just love the draft. And whether it's the Lions or any other team picking, it's such a big event here in America. I mean, you saw what Kansas City put out. I mean, it gets crazy to think that this time next year, that's Detroit, right? That's wherever they're going to fill up Hart Plaza or whatever it is, downtown, Spirit Detroit, all that.
I think Campus Martius is going to be the center point.
And the Fox Theater, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's hard to imagine, but it's going to happen next year, and so I think the event as a whole is great. And so the fact that my weekend was good because I got to watch a lot of NFL draft. As far as the Lions is concerned, grading the draft or how do you feel about the draft is so. Hey, what would you have done, and where do you think that player should have gone?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is, of course, we can grade on. Yeah, well, I would have took this player. I would have not taken that player. I give them a B. What does that mean, right?
Right.
But the second part is we just don't have enough information where the player would have gone. And I think that's where a lot of people try to grade the draft is, hey, I like Jack Campbell, I like Gibbs, but those guys are second-round guys. Well, according to what according to what Brad Holmes knows, they didn't feel that confident about those guys being there in the second round, and they really like those guys. If they like 6, 7, 8 guys, and let's say Stroud, Bryce Young, and Will Anderson are in that group, you're down to a lot less guys, okay? And so they take their guys when they can, and I love the conviction. I see the sense and the plan that you're talking about and why they did it. And then if you rearrange the draft with Branch and Laporta, whoever, and you think those are maybe first-round guys, yeah, it doesn't seem as bad anymore. The end result is what matters. Did you get your guys?
Yeah, and I think that their draft truly reflects they put together a team in free agency that they could put on the field and compete for the division. They'd already done that. They added win now, immediate impact guys. That's what it feels like to me. I think those first 4 players are all going to have a positive impact on the 2023 Detroit Lions season. And, I said this pre-draft, and so now that the draft is over, it even rings more true to me. One of the more overused phrase or overrated things in a draft is saying that that's good value there. I don't even know what that means by good value. Like it's basically you're saying like because Branch was praised because it was good value. I'm like, I just think it's a good pick. Like it's a good player. It feels like everybody that criticized the Lions draft that really doesn't like it says the same thing. And I get into the echo chamber, but it's, oh, I love those players. I hate where they were taken. Okay. They're pretty happy with the players. And I think the sneaky, brilliant part of this draft might be is you can make a strong case today that Jack Campbell and Jahmyr Gibbs were never making it to 48 and 55. They just weren't. And they grabbed them because they weren't going to make it to 48 and 55, but then it ended up getting 2 guys that kind of did make it to 48 and 55, even though they moved up to 34, of course.
But, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, let's say you like Gibbs better than Nolan Smith, which they clearly did, right?
Yep.
But Nolan Smith is a first-round pick, and everyone's telling me Gibbs is a second-round pick. But I like Gibbs better. I'm not going to take the guy I like worse because people think that he should have gone before him. You take the guy you want. Yep. And then if that guy's there later, you pick him up. Like, let's say they like Gibbs more than Branch. So they picked Gibbs first. And, oh, my God, Branch is still there at 45. You get Branch then. I think you pick the guys that you want with conviction, and you move on. You're
100% right. You're basically saying, and a lot of critics out there saying, Brad Holmes taking Gibbs where he took him. I would have taken somebody else. I don't like it. And so Brad Holmes was going to take a worse player. And you can make the case that you think you can get those positions later in the draft. And that's understandable. I don't think people realize how incredibly electric Jahmyr Gibbs is.
Because he wasn't looking like, oh, we'll get a running back in the 3rd round. He's like, no, I want Jahmyr Gibbs right now.
Yep.
It's not just a position. It's the player. That's who they're drafting.
All right, 248-539-9797. Let's get to your opinions on this. Do you see the vision? Does it make sense? Do you like what the Lions and Brad Holmes did?